Tarry here, where the stories never grow old, and you hear something new every time they are told, and it comes clear. So tarry here, where it doesn't matter your age, and when we gather round the table, we all take the stage year after year. So tarry here.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Enlighten Radio Storytelling Hour at enlightenradio.org. I'm Fanny Crawford.
And I'm Stas Ziolkowski.
And today is Monday, May 19th. You were waiting for me to say a wrong date, weren't you?
No, I wasn't. but I was. My friend here was ready to fill you in if you didn't remember it.
Okay, but you should tell us who you and your friend are.
My name is Stas Ziolkowski, and I brought along my friend Juan Carlos, the Coyote.
Good
who has done
morning, Stas and Juan Carlos.
And Juan Carlos has done lots of storytelling with me, not for a long time now. He's been retired, but he used to travel with me to schools when I was telling stories to young classes, and also to libraries when I would do a program for younger children.
Well, he looks like he's ready to go.
Oh, he is ready to go.
Well,
and
maybe he'll be a little patient with us, and we can talk about speak and thank Andy Offit-Irwin for opening our show this morning.
Juan Carlos is always patient.
Thank you, Andy, for Tarry here, for singing your song for us, and looking forward to seeing Andy at Stories in the Round in July on the 3rd Monday this time. But before that, we have Stories in the Round in June with the Black Storytellers of Western Maryland, 4 of them coming to tell stories. And this month, next Monday, you, Stash, and 3 of your dear friends will be with us at Stories in the Round at
You bet.
Universalist Church of Cooperstown, 7 p.m.
Yes.
28th. Do you want to tell us who the other 3 are?
Larry Hayes is the one.
Yep.
Mark Brew.
Yes, indeedy.
And the 3rd is a lady.
Jill Vanderwhite.
I couldn't think of Vanderwhite. Jill Vanderwhite, who was with us for the last Liars Contest.
Yeah, I remember.
And I have been going crazy about the Liar's Tale to Tell. I think I've settled, but you never know.
I have one. I'm going to share one today, a tall tale, but I'm not sure if I'll tell this one on Monday. I only get to tell shorter while the votes are being counted.
Well, that's up to you. You are welcome to be in the contest.
No, that's not appropriate.
Why?
Because I'm supposed to be paying attention to the flow of things and making sure everybody has what they need. And if we run out of time, I don't need to tell. You guys are representing the league. I mean, I am a member of the league, but I have my hands full.
You run so much all week. You do so many things that you probably still have at least 10% of your time where you could work for the government and straighten out a lot of problems we have. You do. There is not a day when you're not busy.
You're trying to send me to an early grave. Okay.
No, I think you're the one that decided how busy you are.
Well, I'm trying to do less. I'm trying not to be a competitor. I'm trying to simply fill the lull and offer an alternative story.
Yeah.
But that date is May 28th at 7 p.m. at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Hagerstown, 13245 Steerfoss Pike. I see your hand is up, but let me just give my phone number, 301-730-1638, in case people want to register early and save a few dollars.
Juan Carlos just reminded me it's May 26th.
Oh, is that what you were going to tell me?
Yes.
Well, why do I have that wrong? I thought because today was the 29th.
Today is the 19th.
Oh, that's why. Well, no, I knew it wasn't the 29th. I meant the 9th. That would have been silly.
No, she's okay. She's okay, honest Juan Carlos.
It is the 26th, Monday, the 26th. Okay, I believe you.
Yes.
Do you want, how can Juan Carlos tell us about Speak?
Oh, sure. And I just have to get him set here because he was taking a nap.
Yeah, I saw his eyes were kind of
I was
closed.
trying to arrange us so that normally Juan Carlos is on my right knee and the children are on the floor.
Yes.
And that gives them a chance to look at Juan Carlos and ignore me. And right now you can see both of us. So,
Well,
and I thought I would try at once. Earlier, I thought like this, but that's not good. Okay, so
it's fine if we see both of you. I mean, you're going to be talking to Juan Carlos, and Juan Carlos is going to be talking to you. So I assume.
Yes, that's true. But okay, so all right, Juan Carlos, tell us a little bit about Speak Story Series. Hello, how are you this morning? My name is Juan Carlos, and I am a coyote. I have never spoken on the radio before, but he said it's okay. So, Speak Story Series is in its 13th season, and we just heard Adam Booth last week. Speak Story Series is on Tuesdays in Shepherdstown at 7:30 p.m. And if you go to speakstoryseries.com, you can get all the information. And you can even send them some money if you want to be a good guy and help out. I think that's enough.
Thank you, Juan Carlos. I should have you do our announcements for Stories in the Round sometimes.
Oof.
Do you want us to, Juan Carlos, would you like to be the first to tell a story today? Or
yes, I don't mind. Okay. Well, in storytelling, lots of people tell stories about me and about my brother coyotes because we are prone to get into trouble. So, but I thought I would start off with a story that I can tell about another kind of animal from my part of the country, from out in the West. And this is the story of baby rattlesnake. Baby rattlesnake loved where he lived with his brother and sister and his mother and father, and there were other rattlesnakes around from the family. But he was sad because he was the baby and he did not have a rattle yet. And he was frustrated because his brother had a rattle, his sister had a rattle, but he didn't. And he complained to his parents, "Why don't I have a rattle?" And his father tried to be very comforting and say, "You are young. As you get older, you will get a rattle." Well, baby rattlesnake cried and cried and cried. He cried so much that some of the elders of the rattlesnake group were irritated. And finally, the head rattlesnake told his parents, give him a rattle. I can't get any sleep. I can't rest. He's driving me crazy. So they gave baby rattlesnake his rattle. And he was so happy. He was so happy. He would go out and he would practice with his rattle. He would wiggle his tail and he'd go, and he would play games. He would follow other animals. He followed old Mr. Turtle and snuck up behind him and went, and Mr. Turtle almost fell over. And he said, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. Well, baby rattlesnake was having so much fun. He scared anybody that came near him, all the other animals. And finally, his father told him, you have to stop this. You're going to cause trouble. And he just kept it up. Finally, one day, baby rattlesnake said to his mom, Mother, how will I know if one of the Native Americans comes by? And how would I know if it was the princess? And the mother said, oh, well, the princess walks with her head held high. She wears beautiful clothes, and she is a very proper. And also, she's very pretty. Well, Juan Carlos set out. He found the trail where the Native American people used, and he hid behind a big rock. And he was looking and looking, and finally, in the distance, he saw a woman, and she was walking on the trail towards him. And she was very pretty, and her head was held high. She had a beautiful dress. And when she got very close, he came out from behind the rock and went, and she spun around and looked at him and stomped on his tail and crushed his rattle. And she walked away. Baby rattlesnake crawled home. He was so upset. He was crying, and his mother held him, and his father came over and he told them what happened. And they said, I hope you have learned your lesson, because you shouldn't have done that. And he spent the whole day being consoled and warmed by his mother and father and his sister and brother. And we hope he learned his lesson. Thank you.
A cautionary tale for the young, or anybody who doesn't know how to control their impulses.
And I'm doing this. Of course, the people on the radio can't see. I don't think. But when I first started using Juan Carlos with storytelling, I had seen a wonderful storyteller, and I'm pretty sure his name was Joe Was, W-O-S. I don't know if you know about him.
No, I don't know his name.
But he was in the Baltimore area, and he came to a school where I was teaching, and he had a puppet, a frog, and he sat in front of the crowd. He sat on a stool, and he had his frog with him, and he told stories, and it was amazing. Afterwards, I introduced myself and told him I did some storytelling, and I was amazed. And he said, I was asking him about his technique and everything, and I said, the frog just got my attention, and I was watching the frog the whole time, and he said, that's the secret. He said, if you do this for children, especially, said, the first time I tried this, I was so amazed. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was like magic. And he said, with the children, and they don't have to only be the kindergarten, first grade, even older children, shortly after I began talking and the frogs talking, they stopped watching me. They only watch the frog, and which is good because sometimes, I'm opening my mouth wider and everything, and it is truly like magic. And I found out early on in my career that if I did a good job and said something at the very beginning that was important about the frog, and I also learned to let the frog look at me like Juan Carlos is looking at me now. And when they do that, the kids automatically ignore me. I'm just a man sitting on a chair. Then the frog is the important thing. And I found that out when I started to use Juan Carlos. Um, I bought Juan Carlos in Arizona, in Sedona, and I think I had him for a year before I took him out in public. And I was really worried because I would practice in front of the mirror and I kept looking. I would see him, I would see me, and I was watching me too much. But the very first time I performed for a class of young children, afterwards, I had questions. Juan Carlos had questions. How does he know how to say all those words? Does he have to practice? And does he read? And it was just amazing to hear first and second graders ask those questions. And anyway, he and I have had lots of fun over the years doing
it. That's a great introduction to Juan Carlos.
Yeah. And he's very handsome.
Yes, he is very handsome.
Yeah.
And very well spoken.
Yes.
He's fun to listen to. Okay, well, I have a story to start us out. I may have a bit of a second story, but I at least have this story. So long ago, when I lived in Virginia, when the kids were little, we had a dog named Sister. She was a Malamute, which is a kind of northern sled dog. Big dog, not quite as tall as a big German Shepherd, but wider, stocky, robust dog, broad in the shoulders with very thick sled dog fur, good for sleeping out of doors under snowdrifts. And she was a sweet dog, but she never sat still enough to be very affectionate. And Sister had more energy than everyone else in the family combined, exuberant energy. We had to take her for a run at least twice a day or hiking for hours. And a friend of mine that I worked with told me that Malamutes are puppies till they are 4 years old. The Malamute that lived with my friend Ellen, the dog's name was Mike, but my friend's name was Ellen. And she said that Mike had single-handedly eaten through 3 complete couches before he reached Malamute adolescence. The first time Mike did that, it took him about 4 hours. When Ellen made it home, she found the shreds of her pull-out sofa bed scattered all over the house. She locked him in a crate for 2 days so he would learn a lesson. And then she bought herself another couch. That one lasted a week before the new couch smell wore off, and Mike started on that one. And this one only took him 3 hours. The last couch that Ellen bought, Mike ate in under 90 minutes. And she didn't buy another until Mike was 5 years old, well, almost 6 years old, which is apparently the age of reason for Malamutes because he never ate another couch after that, or at least what passes for reason in Malamutes. Now, my dog's sister was different. Her favorite activity was digging very deep, very wide, very long holes in our lawn. And she preferred to work on a single hole for a week or two at a time. But we discouraged that because she could dig out a 5 by 5 by 5 foot cavern in about 6 hours. That was the maximum time we ever tried to leave her on her own outside, tethered to an overhead line that stretched between two oak trees. We had to move her around the yard every day and fill in the holes behind her. And we were afraid she'd dig so far under a tree that it would fall on the house. So we needed to take her for these very long runs, very long walks all the time. But the story I wanted to tell you is about Sister's toys, the ones she carried around with her or played with in the yard when she wasn't digging. Cattle knee joints and shoulder blades from the local butcher shop, which they just cost a couple dollars a piece, but Sister would finish those, grind them up with her teeth in less than an hour a piece. We tried to keep her in shoe toys, heavy duty squeaky toys, like we had one made of airplane grade plastic. We had big nautical ropes tied in a gigantic knot the size of my head. And we had braided leather ropes, 6 inches each rope, since 6 inches in diameter, and circling, like crocheted around, they weren't crocheted, but somehow built around a wooden wall. We had a number of those. Now, none of these toys, so-called dog toys, cost less than $15 each. Even back
Best
then,
as I can tell.
that was 30 years ago.
Ah,
But actually, oh, I hear somebody sighing. Is that Juan Carlos or is
No, I think it's John.
Okay. He must be listening to us. Okay.
No, I think he's doing something else.
Okay. He must be working on his computer.
There you go.
Okay. On the radio. Now, actually, Sister, the Malamute, was pretty good at finding her own toys if we let her wander. The problem was she sometimes didn't come home for 12 to 36 hours at a time, and more than once she came home with a chicken from our neighbor's coop. That was not the best way to get along in that community. So we did not purposely let her wander. Sometimes she would get away from us, but it didn't happen very often. But Sister's favorite found toys, aside from dead hens, were fragrant pine logs from the woodpile. She had a wood handle of a rusted out hoe that she dug up all by herself from the garden. And another one I remember was a half of a 2-foot ceramic garden gnome that she found underneath our house. In my memory, the pine logs were usually a good 18 inches long and a foot thick, and they lasted a few days, but the logs were aged enough that splinters did not seem to be a problem. So she did well with those, and the hoe handle was pretty well on its way to sawdust when she first unearthed it from wherever she got it. So it took only about 48 hours maybe to go from kindling to tinder before she went through most of it. And most of it must have ended up in her sturdy Malamute gut. Now, the ceramic garden gnome lasted a bit longer. She didn't so much chew that as lick it to death. She licked all the paint off while she held the head between her paws. But there were some gaping holes with jagged, it was ceramic, it was pottery. So there were jagged edges, and we took it away from her because we were afraid she would gouge herself in the eye with those edges or destroy her gums or something like that. It seemed too risky. But her very favorite of all time found chew toys, was a patty pan squash. You know, those flat, circular, scalloped edge. They're usually pale green or almost white flat squashes. Their plants themselves look a lot like zucchini plants, but the squashes look a little different. They taste a lot like zucchini too. Although you have to be careful not to let them go to seed like some people let their zucchinis go. Well, she somehow found one. I wasn't even growing squashes at the time, so it didn't come from our garden, but she found this one and brought it home. We never figured out how she found it. She probably stole it from a neighbor, I'm guessing. And it looked like squash on steroid Miracle Grow. It was enormous. And I'm pretty sure it came from one of her unauthorized expeditions. It lasted a very long time, more than a week. I'm sure of that. And she didn't so much chew it. She seemed to enjoy licking that smooth, cool, pale yellow green outside the skin of the squash. And it was probably kind of textured a bit. And I think she liked that on her tongue more than the flavor of the squash itself. But when it did finally, the last of it disappear into Sister's gullet, she looked so woebegone that I thought about trying to grow one with Miracle Grow and maybe use puppy chow instead of compost. Although I do think that Sister would have dug up and consumed the puppy chow before the squash seeds even sprouted. But now it's patty pan squash season again, and though Sister is no longer with us, I do covet the challenge.
Multiple
of
examples.
18 pure white or greeny white squash with those lovely scalloped edges. So if you ever see one at the farmer's market, Stash, or I've forgotten your friend's name already.
Juan Carlos.
I was going to say Carlito, but Juan Carlos. Pardon me, Juan. I will try very hard to remember your name from now forward. If you ever see one of those squashes, a big one, it would have to be a big one, at a farmer's market, please pick one up for me. And I would even pay, I'm guessing that by now a really big one would probably cost about $15. But I would pay that just to remember my dog Sister.
Well, what a story.
She was quite the animal.
My
We
goodness.
had her a long time. We had her more than 6 years. She was a handful, boy.
What patience.
Yeah, it did take a lot of patience to deal with her. You had to keep her busy. And when we weren't home, we had to give her things to chew on, or we were really afraid she would either get loose or that she would pull down a piece of a tree that she was tethered to. We certainly could not leave her in the house unless she was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's why Juan Carlos is my favorite pet.
Yes, he seems quite the gentleman.
He sleeps on our spare bed in the spare bedroom and is very happy to be there.
Juan Carlos, I do have a question now that I've told this story. I wonder if you've ever met a Malamute or if you have ever heard of one and what you think of them. I
heard the name that you said, but I don't want to meet them because they're very big. And I am not so very big.
Yes,
and
they are bigger than you are.
They are.
At least when they're full grown. Yeah.
Right. So and coyotes, all coyotes are kind of small.
Yes.
There is no large coyote.
Yeah.
So
Have you heard, Juan Carlos, about the pack of 50 or so coyotes that are running through Frederick County around Myersville and around Route 40 in that area?
no, because Stash doesn't let me hear the news.
Well, it's probably just as well. You would no doubt want to go check them out. Okay.
I'm not sure.
No.
I'm kind of a lone studious type.
What do you study? Story, of course.
Sometimes I don't do it much anymore, but I used to study Stash. I used to watch him, and
Well, we have that in common.
yes, because he does some strange things.
What kind of things?
Before his shoulders went bad, he had a shoulder that was replaced. I can't even imagine cutting someone's shoulder open and replacing a bone in it. But he told me that's what happened. But before that, he used to play his accordion, and I liked the music. Um, but he didn't. They didn't have a great repertoire. He only played. He played a lot of Polish. You know, he called them polkas, and I like the music. But when I asked for, some music from the Southwest, and he said he didn't think it would work on his accordion.
What?
He also spends lots of time writing numbers down.
I have seen at least one band from the Southwest, Spanish speakers who used an accordion in their band. So I know that can be a popular form of music, and you can't get stuff.
Is that you, Lukey?
Oh,
What are you doing?
Oh,
You scratching
I think that
again?
John, who's another Juan,
We have more scratching. You have more
is talking
hands.
to his cat or his dog. It must be his dog.
I think we are having a mixed medley
Yes,
radio show today.
different stories happening all at the same
Right.
time.
Oh. Should I tell another story?
Oh, please do.
Okay. Well,
I think that question came from Juan, didn't it?
yes. Yes. Juan Carlos, his voice sounds very much like Stash.
Sometimes it does, yes.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but sometimes.
No, okay. Well, all right. I will tell you a story about a coyote. And since I'm on the radio, I don't think I can get in trouble. I try not to tell coyote stories too much, but this one I think it's a good one. Once upon a time, there was a coyote who envied the birds. Where he lived, there was a whole tribe of crows, and they flew all around. And Coyote was so jealous. One day, when there were a group of birds sitting on the ground, he came up close to them and he said very quickly, "I'm not going to try to eat anybody. I just want to ask a favor. Can you teach me to fly?" And the oldest crow, the head of the group, said, "You don't have the right things in your body. You have fur and you have legs, but you need feathers to fly." And he said, "Well, can you help me get some feathers?" Well, the oldest crow said to his group, "Okay, let me try an experiment. Everyone pull out one of your feathers, but pull them out from the left side." And they stuck feathers into Coyote's fur. And he had about 20 feathers. And the old crow said, now, let's go up to the hill and you're going to run just like we do. We're going to run and hop. And when you get to the edge of the hill, which is not too high, jump into the air. And he did. But what happened was because they had used only feathers from the left side, and he was going around in circles. He couldn't go where he wanted to. He just kept going around in circles, and he was flapping everything, his legs hard and everything, that he shook out some of the feathers, and boom, he fell to the ground. Luckily, he wasn't very high when he fell to the ground. And he said, that was fun, but I got dizzy. And can we try it again? And the old crow said to his group, okay, now this time use feathers from both sides. Okay. And this time we need a bunch of feathers. And he had lots of members in his crow tribe. They put feathers into the coyote and he took off. He could fly. And he was bragging about how he was a better flyer than they were and how he was so brave to have started this new thing. And here he was flying and flying and flying. And all of a sudden, he realized that there were feathers falling off of him. And he came crashing down to the earth, right into a pile of dirt. He would just lay there. And the old crow came over and said, I think this experiment is over. You got really cocky. You thought you were being better than we were. We're not going to help you fly anymore. I hope you learned your lesson. And Coyote did. He stayed on the ground from then on.
Oh my, thank you, Juan Carlos.
You're welcome, pretty
That's
lady.
a good teaching story. Can you give us a hint what the message is from that story?
That you should be happy with who you are and not envy other animals or people, and just develop your own skills.
Good advice. Have you ever been envious of other animals yourself?
No, I can do lots of things other animals can't do.
Yeah, I've never met a coyote, but I imagine coyotes tend to be pretty sure of themselves.
The only problem, coyotes often get in trouble because they are nosy. And I am also. I sit in the bed in the spare bedroom here, and when I see Stash go by the room, or his wife Terry goes by the room, I wonder, what are they doing? But I've learned to control my curiosity because coyotes are very curious. They often put their nose into other people's business, and they always get in trouble because of it. So I am just happy where I am.
How long have you been with Mr. Z?
Ooh, I
In coyote
believe
years?
let's see, at least 21, 22, at least 23 years.
Wow. I didn't realize coyotes could live that long.
Oh, yes, especially when they're so well taken care of.
I'm sure that's true. I'm sure Mr. Z does take very good care.
Yes. And so does Terry. She likes me.
Oh. Does she feed you? She's
No.
She's a great cook.
I know, but I take care of myself for food.
Okay. Do you eat coyote chow?
I don't know what that is.
Okay, never mind then. I will.
Boy, she asks strange questions.
Have you met any of Stasha's other friends? Probably mostly children.
Mostly children. Sometimes he has very strange friends.
What was your favorite experience with the kids?
Oh, the first time I talked to a class, it was a long time ago. It was at a school where Stash was teaching, and the the two smallest grades, the youngest grades, kindergarten and first grade. It was about 20 children. And we were in a small room in the kindergarten classroom, and I told a story. And afterwards, one of the children said, "Can we talk to Juan Carlos?" And the teacher kind of rolled her eyes, and Stash spoke up and said, uh, "Yes." So this little girl came up and said to me, "How long did it take you to learn all the words for the story?" And I had to look at Stash and, and ask him, because he keeps all of our records. And the then other children came up and they completely ignored Stash. And I'll tell you a secret. His arm gets very tired, and he, the kids actually, two of the children got so close to me that they were between me and Stash. And he had his arms stretched way out so that they could get close to me. And finally, the teacher, I think she felt bad for him because she could see he was making faces, right? And she asked the children to move back a little bit.
It's a great story, Juan. Oh my goodness, you are a very captivating and charismatic storyteller, I have to say.
Thank you.
I'm very impressed.
I think
I wish I had met you 23 years ago
Oh.
and we could have become acquainted
Yeah. Well,
when you were just
I was
starting
living
out
in
on the
I
scene.
lived in a wonderful store back then in Sedona, Arizona. And Stash looked at me on the shelf and didn't even bother asking what I would cost. He reached up, took me down, and when he went and found Terry, who was his wife even then, boy, does she put up with a lot. But she's very nice to him all the time. And she said, who is that? And he introduced me and said, "This is my new friend, Juan Carlos, and he's going home with us."
What a nice introduction. I'm sure, well, I don't know, maybe not. Was Terry at all taken aback that she was going to be living with a coyote?
Oh, no. Stash has lots of hobbies. He's always building things and creating stuff. And he did a lot of theater work, and he loves building sets. It took me a while to learn what a set was. I thought it was a mathematical thing because he also talked about that in his classroom sometime. However, it was like fake things to put on the stage so people will believe that the audience will believe that there's watching someone's apartment or something like that.
Hmm. Interesting. Well, Juan, would you be willing to listen to me as I talk a little bit about a story that I'm working on?
Yes,
And,
I'd be happy to do that. I
'cause
like you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I am totally enamored of you. I've never even seen, well, I did see one time I saw a coyote on the road when I not who was passing that I passed in my car, but he was running along almost as fast as I was going in my car on this small road. And I am 99% sure it was a coyote. I thought at first it was a wolf, but it was not really big enough, I think, to be a wolf. And it
Oh,
was totally unfazed by the traffic on the
good thing
road.
you didn't stop and pick him up
Oh,
if
I
you thought
had
he might be a
no,
wolf.
no, I didn't, I would not have stopped. I mean, it was perfect. It looked perfectly healthy. It was just loping along by the side of the road, and it was not a dog. So
Yeah.
it looked very much like a coyote.
Good.
It was bigger than I thought it should be for a coyote, but it was not as big as I think a wolf
You
would.
must be a smart lady because you could tell the difference.
Well,
Some people,
I
some
had to
people
think
think we're just
about
small dogs.
it. I did have to think about it for a while. Why was I? So this is my first interaction with a coyote, and it's been wonderful. I've really enjoyed
Good.
hearing from you.
And
But this story is about a dog. Um, Actually, it's about a lot more than that. But I'm just going to tell you the bare bones of the story, what I'm thinking about so far. So I was driving the other day, and I found myself behind a beat up dark blue Ford station wagon. I don't know if you know what a Ford station wagon looks like, but that's not really important to the story. But it looked exactly like one that I myself had driven for 3 or 4 years when I was commuting to the regional Head Start office, the regional Head Start Resource and Training Center. I don't know if you know anything about Head Start, but that's another place where we work with small children. And I was working for them as nutrition education coordinator for Maryland, um, and some other states that were part of our region. But I wasn't paying much attention to this car in front of me because I was thinking about work. But I do remember that that commute that I had been making. This was a actually was not the I said it was the other day, but it was years ago because I stopped working there in 1993. And it was very early in the morning. And I liked driving at that time because I would just have time to think about things because before I got to work. And as long as I left by 5:30 in the morning, the traffic was not too bad. But I wasn't on Route 70 yet. I was just still in Hagerstown, not far from my house, and was not going very fast. And I suddenly noticed that that blue Ford station wagon in front of me had this very charming white hair, curly white hair, fluttering out the open window. Almost, almost like it was not very long hair, but it was curly, short, silvery streamers kind of streaming out the window. And I kept thinking that's probably a woman. It could be a man, but it's probably a woman because it's just beautiful hair. And I haven't seen a man recently with hair quite that long, certainly not somebody who would have silver white hair like that. And I kept trying to figure out what the person's face might look like. And a few blocks later, that car in front of me made a sudden right-hand turn down a side street. And when I craned my neck around to see if I could see that person's face as I went past, I was stunned to see that head belonged to a dog who was sitting on the lap of a sedate looking, dour looking older woman whose gray hair, her own hair was pulled back tightly in a bun, but the hair on the head of that dog and all along his neck or her neck, I couldn't tell at that point. But what was even weirder was the dog turned to look at me and gave me a long look with the tongue hanging out, sort of his, and I could see his mouth was out the window now, and I could see his ears flapping in the wind. But he or she had these beautiful white curls. And then the car sped up and zoomed off around the corner of that street. And I was stunned, to say the very least. And I laughed all the way to work down Route 70. But I later saw that car again with the same dog in the car. And I had a very weird experience that time because the dog seemed to recognize me when I passed the car again. I had purposely pulled out into the other lane and passed the car to find out if it was the same dog, because I could see that beautiful silver hair coming out the window again. And I'm not sure I want to tell the rest of that story. I'm still figuring out how to tell it, but that was a very interesting experience I had.
It sounds like it. I could understand why that dog was looking at you. I like looking at you.
Well, the dog was not interested in me to start with. It was only because I was staring at the dog that
Oh,
the
you
dog.
sound like one of those bashful ladies who doesn't want attention.
Oh my.
Okay, Juan Carlos, behave yourself.
Juan Carlos, you can be a little flirty, can't you?
Yes, Juan Carlos likes the ladies.
Just older women such as moi, or do you also flirt with little girls and kindergartners?
Oh, ladies. Okay, Juan Carlos, you're going to have to behave yourself now.
Yeah.
It's almost time for the show to be over.
It is. I'm just noticing that. Another reason to cut short that story. But this was a lot of fun. Juan Carlos, I hope you will come back and visit another day and tell more of your wonderful stories.
I will.
And you
if
should bring
Stosh brings me
with you.
Yes.
Okay. I'm Fanny Crawford.
And I'm Stasio Kalski, and I am Juan Carlos the Coyote.
And we have been your co-hosts for the Enlighten Radio Storytelling Hour at enlightenradio.org. We are independent community radio broadcasting from Bolivar, West Virginia, Hagerstown, Maryland, and Martinsburg, West Virginia. And now it's time to close out this week's show. After offering you, our listeners, a window into the world of storytelling by traditional and non-traditional tellers, encouraging you, our listening community, to share, preserve, and expand all of our stories. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for John Case, who will be broadcasting next.
Smooth jazz is coming up,
All right.
actually, on the radio. So I'm actually going to have another Zoom session on a different thing going up. But anyway, smooth jazz, very smooth, almost flat.
Yikes.
You know, I mean, it has a rhythm to it, but it's, you know, it's a trick of light. That's all. Anyway, you guys had a very interesting stories. Thank you for on Juan Carlos. Yes, the coyote. I sent you a poem. Janet had a whole bunch of poems on the poetry show about coyote.
Wow.
The trickster. Oh, well, actually, the trickster myth, and which
Right.
is the coyote in some areas and the raven and others, and you know.
Right.
So anyway, she had some beautiful poems. I sent one of them to you. That was
How do I
short
say
of
that?
it's in chat. I think you're in the chat.
Yeah.
Your chat app. I believe you can download. It has a download link, you know, somewhere in the does it?
I don't see it.
Wait a minute. Well, wait a second.
I see.
Why reaction.
Save chat.
I have copy and quote is all I'm getting, but I will copy it and see if,
Yeah.
That's
Well,
right.
anyway, I can send you the link. So but it was nice.
Yeah, it looks neat.
Yeah.
that's a good one.
Oh,
You
and there's a whole lot of Coyote poems, turns out, actually. And
Oh,
Native American poems, as well as and other and it's kind of a fascinating thing about why is the trickster the hero in Native American, or at least some Native American traditions. And so anyway, it's interesting how there's various answers to that. Um,
yeah.
I guess the cheap one is it's the art of survival of a oppressed people requires making compromises.
Ah,
Yeah.
well,
There are a lot of coyote tales in many different Native American traditions.
Yes, there are. There are many different roles. Yes, that's true.
I have several volumes of Native American verse poems and chants, and I'm going to look up and see if I can find some coyote stories. I've never noticed them, but I'm going to see if I can find them.
Right. So, and then there's all kinds of conversations with Coyote. Like, why did Coyote end up with the name he started with? See, God was the Great Spirit was going to hand out names to everybody, and you had to get up early in the morning and go to this meeting ground to get your name. And he overslept because he was up all night staring at the moon. And so he got there late at noon. There was nothing left. So he was stuck with his original name the way all the good ones like Great Bear, things like that, gone.
Mhm.
So he had to do that, but the Great Spirit said it's okay. You're the people will need you.
Did Janet write this poem herself?
Oh no, I don't. No, not this one. No,
Okay.
no. She collected the poems. I'll send you the link to the
Okay, and remind me, I can't remember Janet's last name.
Harrison.
Oh, that's right.
John, will you send that to me also?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sure. Yeah. I'll
Okay.
send you what I got. Yeah. Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Take
Bye,
care.
Stash.
Right.
Bye.